Are you a victim? Or are you just playing one? There's a difference, okay? Because being a victim of an unfortunate situation, event, circumstances is tragic, is unfortunate. Playing the victim can be a lifestyle. And there's a lot of people out here that play the victim. And the true thing is that they're victimizing themselves on a regular basis. And it's really easy to play the victim because when you play the victim, you absolve yourself of all responsibility for your life. Okay? Nothing's your fault. Everyone is against you. The world is against you. Every situation is against you. And you search for reasons to make yourself a victim. You retell your story over and over. Once again, like I talked about before, your struggle becomes your identity. Everyone you meet, you try to tell your story to about how you're a victim of this and how you're helpless and how you can't. And never are you really looking for solutions. You're just looking for people to continuously feel sorry about you being a victim and pointing out how everything in this world is unfair to you. All right? And playing the victim or having that mentality robs you of all possibilities for a better future. It really does. All right? I've seen entire groups of people get involved in a victim mentality, yet do nothing to change it. And there's two questions. Do you want it to change? Or do you want to change it? Because those two questions are very different. The victim mentality wants it to change. Somebody's supposed to come and change this. Somebody's supposed to do something. When you want to change it, you take the responsibility, you take the accountability, you do everything you can to change that situation. We talked about health yesterday, and we talked about living your best life. Okay? And the people who are willing and truly interested in living their best life are doing everything to change it. The people who want to live their best life are hoping that something happens so that they can live their best life. Once again, the victim mentality will rob you of all your potential. It will rob you of all your possibilities. And we see it so much. And in our society right now, what people don't understand is that there is money in you being a victim. Because the moment you take control of your life, you realize how powerful you are. And if we can do that collectively, we can shift and move anything we want. It doesn't really take that many people. Okay? It truly doesn't. All it takes is a group of people who truly believe that they can and are willing to enact change and move in concert in a particular direction. And change happens. All right? But it will never happen as long as you lay in the comfort of victimhood. As long as you lay in the comfort of waiting for someone else to do for you. As long as you lay in the comfort of, it's not my fault. Look at what they're doing to me. Look at what they do to us. There's stories of triumph all around you. When you're engulfed in the victim mentality, you refuse to see those stories. You refuse to acknowledge those facts. You refuse to take into account all the people that rise above. It's not luck that they rise above. It's not happenstance that they rise above. They rise above because they wanted to. They rise above because they chose to. They rise above because they acted on it. You stay stuck because you want to. You stay stuck because you're choosing to. You stay stuck because you refuse to take action to make anything happen. And you keep waiting for people to do it for you. And the part that is puzzling is when people sit there and wait for the people who they claim victimized them to apologize and to come and undo what they've done, if they actually did anything whatsoever. That is delusional. It's ludicrous. And it never happens. All that happens is year after year goes by and you remain just as stuck. You engage in the same habits, the same patterns of behavior that keep you exactly where you are. You really have no interest in changing it. Because the true indication that someone does not like where they are is when they take action to move themselves to a different place. Anytime somebody just plays lip service and doesn't do anything, that means they derive a certain amount of comfort being where they are. There are some people that truly don't want help. They just want sympathy for where they are. And the truth is, I deal with this all the time. When people call me and ask me about their health, and anybody can testify to this when we do my first consultation, I sit there and I listen to people and I ask them, what are your habits? What do you think has led you here? When did this happen? And we usually whittle it down to the point where there has to be an acknowledgement of your role in this. Because in many cases in our lives, and I would say about 90-something% of the time, right, it is your fault. It may not be your fault that it happened initially, but it is your fault that you remained. It is your fault that you continue to remain, especially if you've done nothing about it. Okay? And yes, even if it is someone else's fault, it is still your responsibility. You are responsible for your life. And until you take accountability, you will never assume responsibility. And if you can't assume responsibility, you will never take action. And action is what is required to move you away from the place that you claim you do not want to be in. Unless, of course, once again, you derive some kind of pleasure. So once again, are you truly a victim or just playing the victim? Because there's a big difference. And there are some people in this world who have been victims of very unfortunate situations, unfortunate upbringings, unfortunate events. But we have also seen a lot of those people rise. I've seen people double, triple, quadruple amputees rise. I've seen people who are victims of domestic violence, war, atrocities rise. I've seen people who are victims of cancer rise. I've seen people who have gone bankrupt rise. What makes them different from you? What makes them any different from you? Choice. They refused to remain stuck. They made a choice. Every single day we wake up, we make choices. Choices to win or stay. Choices to triumph or complain. Choices to work or just idle. And many people have become very have become experts at blaming. Experts at making their lives so difficult. Experts of making struggle their identity. And I can tell you that for a fact. I look at my life, and my life has been riddled with mistakes. It's been riddled with tragedy. But at every turn, win, lose, or draw, it came down to choice. Remain or thrive. Complain or work. Move on or stay stuck. And every single time, the reason why I am here today is because I chose the latter of the choices. I could have broken down when I lost my parents. I could have broken down when my family lost everything to war. I could have broken down when I moved to a new country, poor and destitute. I could have broken down after divorce. I could have broken down after bankruptcy. I could have broken down many a times. But every single time I was faced with a struggle, every single time I was handed an unfortunate set of circumstances, every single time I had a bad hand, I played the hell out of it. Okay? Losing is not an end. Okay? It never has been for me. You know, I remember I laughed when somebody said, how can you be so cavalier about losing everything? I said, when you lose everything, you have nothing else to lose. You can only win. My dad always said, he who is down fears no fall. It's all up from here. Winning is a mentality. Victimhood is a mentality. Make sure you pick the mentality you want and understand the repercussions and the consequences of the mentality you pick. There is no situation in this life that you cannot overcome. Either you can change your situation or you can change your perspective on the situation. But you don't have to remain stuck. The truth is, I'll give you a little news flash. Nobody wants to hear your problems. Because everyone has problems. People are interested in solutions. People are interested in triumphs. When you get a group of people that want to gather around every day, every week, and tell their story of their tragedy, that's not where you want to be. You want to get around the people who tell the stories of their triumphs. Because those stories of triumphs are the ones that are going to lift you up. The tragedy stories keep you stuck. It gives you comfort. It makes you feel, oh, I'm not alone. And you ignore the people who had the same tragedies, worse, and triumph. You know, one thing that happens to people, especially in these United States, look how many people are depressed. You know why a lot of people are depressed? Because somewhere along the lines, and I don't understand where this happened, but somewhere along the lines, people in the United States were promised this easy life. Okay? And if you look around the world, life is anything but easy for about 80% of this world. The wars, the famines, the natural disasters, the abject poverty, And in every corner of the world, despite war, despite famines, despite poverty, despite unfortunate situations, people rise. And the ones that rise make a choice. And don't get me wrong, sometimes some situations are so hard that, in our eyes, people don't rise as far. But I always tell people, I never judge a man by how high he rises, but from where he came. Okay? But in this country, there's very little reason why. Because there's so many opportunities. Look at what happens to people when they come here. When you're willing to work, when you're willing to overcome. You ever ask yourself, you meet somebody from a foreign country? You ever thought to yourself what they went through? And so many people are hell-bent on being a victim. And now we have to, now we coin new phrases. One of the new phrases that irks me to the soul is generational trauma. Where you're now embodying the trauma of people, situations you weren't even involved in. They hand you those things as crutches. They hand you those things as reasons why. Reasons why you can't. Reasons why you shouldn't. Reasons why even if you try, you won't be able to because you got this crutch. When there's examples all around you of people who have, and are continuing to thrive. Your victim mentality is big business, is big money. Stop buying into the bullshit. It sounds comfortable, but it really isn't. You'd be surprised how well you can walk, run, jump, once you put that crutch down. There are certain types of people, there are certain organizations, there are certain people that thrive off of you, depending on the crutch, because they want to be the crutch for you. You know why? Because as long as you're holding on to that crutch, you need them. I explained the story yesterday of my, friend who had the one leg, shorter than the other. That was supposed to be debilitating. That was supposed to be a disadvantage. I explained the story of my other friend who unfortunately, had cancer at 32. That was supposed to be the end of her life. I know people who came from war. All these were reasons, damn good reasons too, to not even try anymore, to lay down. Life's over. It boils down to choice. It boils down to what you're willing to accept, what you're willing to believe. And the more times you tell your story of your hurt, you sink deeper and deeper into it. If you don't do anything else for yourself, pay more attention to the story of triumph. See yourself as somebody who can triumph. Start to do things and act in a way, move yourself in the direction of somebody who wants to win and not remain. Because playing the victim, at that point now you're the one who are victimizing yourself on a daily basis. because you're keeping yourself and remaining in the same position by choice. Once again, unfortunate things happen to many people. A lot of unfortunate things have happened to me, so I can speak from experience. But every single time it happened, I had a choice. And I know some people, I know a lot of people who have had it way worse than me and triumphed. You know, a lot of times our environment too tells us things. All right, our environment encourages us to feel like we're a victim, to feel like we're less than. And depending on whether or not you believe that, will also dictate how you feel about your situation. Okay? Will force you to feel like a victim. Will make you don the jacket of victimhood. Less than. I didn't because I didn't have. I couldn't because these things weren't available to me. Mindset. So for Thoughtful Thursday, think about that. You know, are you a victim or are you just playing one? And also, take a look at the people around you. Are they truly victims? Or are they just playing one? Because the people who play victims will waste your time. They would take up a lot of your energy with you trying to save them. Where in actuality, they're not looking for saving. They're looking for sympathy. They're looking for encouragement. They enjoy the warmth of the attention that they get from being a victim. They have donned the jacket of struggle, and truly they refuse to take it off because that struggle identity keeps them warm. Be able to recognize that as well. Unfortunately, like I said, I deal with people like that all the time. People who come to me and tell me they gained weight because they were in an abusive relationship. When did that relationship end? 20 years ago? Okay. So 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we're still here. Yeah. And one of my favorite questions to ask people is, so let me ask you a question. At any point in time during that situation, were you ever tied down and made to eat or made to do anything? No, but it was emotional. Oh, okay. At some point in time, we have to accept responsibility that even the choices, even in extreme situations, some of these choices were choices that we made. That's how we decided to cope with that. Okay? Now we can't go back and change those things. But what we can do is we can recognize that it was a choice that we made at that point in time, albeit wrong. Okay, we all have made wrong choices. However, we can now recognize the error and change it. But once it's pointed out that that was a choice, and we continue to make that choice with no pressure, knowing that is a choice, knowing that is a reflex or whatever it is that we've adapted, then we are victimizing ourselves. Okay? And yes, is it uncomfortable to make that determination? Of course. But that's what accountability is. Self-love is holding yourself accountable, especially for your BS, especially for your shortcomings. Because if you can't recognize that, then you can't do much. Something to think about. Happy Thursday, guys. Shout outs to, what's happening there, Kimber? What's going on? Good morning, Thomas Miller. How do you keep from turning away from the people who choose to be a victim? How do you keep from turning away? I'm not understanding that. How do you turn them away? Let me see it. Well, if somebody chooses to be a victim, here's how I figure it out. Okay? I'm all for listening to your story once, maybe twice. On the second go round, right, I am now looking to hear some kind of solution, some kind of action. And if I'm not hearing that, then I'm offering you some kind of solution. Because I'm not interested in listening to the same thing on the third go round without a follow-up. But then I did this, and I've been trying this. And if you're not interested or haven't taken any action in that effect, then clearly you enjoy being where you are. And then even when I hear the story, right, let's analyze this thing. Is it truly just the other person's fault? What part did you play in this? Because a lot of times, you know, one of the biggest problems about being a victim or claiming you're a victim is ignoring the part you played. I always tell people, listen, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes in this world. There's nothing wrong with falling down. But if you can't tell me why you fell, if you can't tell me the mistakes or the errors that led to the fall, then you can't legitimately tell me that you won't wind up in the same position. And part of telling me why you fell, a lot of times is telling me the part you played in that. Okay? And if you can't hold yourself accountable for your part, if you can't see the mistakes that led you to be in the position where that could happen, then there's no way you can tell me that it won't happen again. And if you're blinded to that, then no one can help you, because you'll make the mistake over and over. And every single time you make that mistake, it will always be the other person's fault. We've seen this with people. They go from relationship to relationship, and it's the same problem every single time. And what is that? That is somebody who refuses to analyze what they're doing that puts them in the position that they're having the same results, the same outcome with multiple different unrelated people. The only common denominator, my friend, is you. And if you can't see that, then no one can help you, because you're refusing to help yourself. Okay? Move the conversation forward. Exactly. So how are we going to solve this? What are we going to do? Okay, I heard the story. Third time. So what have you done? Because if you can't give me some kind of something, then that means you just want to stay there. And yeah, I've heard the story before. And the story's not going to change on the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time. It's not going to change after 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. You're still going to be blaming what happened 20 years ago, when there's a whole lot of things you could have done in between. Yes, it may have been their fault, but your responsibility, you've been void, derelict in your responsibility to yourself since then to make some kind of move in another direction. So somehow you like it. And some people like it. Let's get that straight. Okay? Some people have convinced themselves that they like victimhood. And our world right now coddles that. Why? Because they can make money off of you. They can control you. They know what you're not going to do. And it's unfortunate, but very true. Exactly. The man in the mirror. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes life will throw you some blows, man. You know, And some people are not able to rise up as high as others after taking some blows, but we're all able to make some kind of effort. Okay? Some kind of effort to try something and not just lay out. All right? I always point out, Muhammad Ali wasn't the greatest because he never lost. He was the greatest because after every single loss, he rebounded. He never stepped down from a challenge. He took on everything. And that is the true mark of being a winner in life, in the ring, anywhere you go. It's not about losing. Everybody loses. The only people that never lose are the people that don't compete. Be very slow to accept that cloak of victimhood. It keeps you warm, but it takes you nowhere.